Welcome to Carol and Gary's See America Tour.
Hello again, everyone. On Friday, September 17th, Carol, Jasper, and I drove 250 miles from Berlin, Maryland to Little Orleans, Maryland. After a long summer of traveling, I picked Little Orleans because of its location on the western end of Maryland. With no official plans, I assumed that Carol would want to make a quick trip back to Nebraska to see family before heading south for the winter. As we were driving west on Interstate 68, approximately 20 miles from the exit to our campground, we could see a large opening in the hills miles ahead of us. As we neared this opening, it was obvious that we were going to drive through it. This is what is called the Sideling Hill Cut. When Interstate 68 was being planned, studies found that a tunnel would cost nearly double the amount of actually cutting through the mountain, and maintenance of a tunnel would be more costly than the upkeep of a roadway. Beginning in April 1983, 2,600 tons of explosives were used to blast a 340-foot deep knot from the ridge of Sideling Hill. A highway rest stop located near the eastern side of the Sideling Hill Cut includes a pedestrian bridge that crosses over Interstate 68, connecting the eastbound and westbound rest areas and offering views of the cut without having to stop along the interstate, which for safety reasons is prohibited. This 340-foot cut is considered to be one of the best rock exposures in the United States. Marine and plant fossils were found during the excavation, showing evidence that this part of Maryland was once under the ocean. Another interesting landmark in this area is the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, which operated from 1831 until 1924 along the Potomac River between Washington, D.C. and Cumberland, Maryland. After the Potomac Canal Company unsuccessfully tried to float goods down the Potomac River from the Ohio River Valley to Chesapeake Bay, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Company took over in 1828. They planned to dig a 184.5-mile continuous canal parallel the Potomac River, but boats would not have to enter this unpredictable river. The C&O Canal was dug between 1828 and 1850. As each section was completed, it was open for business. Indentured workers perform most of the digging. Indentured means that a person is forced to work by some contract. An example of this is if a person had signed a contract to work off their transportation to the United States. Boats up to 90 feet in length and 14 feet wide were tied to mules that walked along a dirt strip called a towpath, which was parallel to the canal. Dams built on the river would ensure that the canal always had a constant water level, and lift locks would carry boats through the changes in elevation along the route. A lift lock was a watertight section of the canal that had wooden gates on either end. This is a simulated lift lock with a simulated mule pulling a simulated boat. After the boat entered the lock, the gates would close behind it. Then the opposite end gates would open, allowing water to fill the lock, raising the boat. When the proper water level was reached, the far end gates would open and the boat would continue on. This is Lock 44, which Carol and I visited on Friday. Carol and I drove to this location on the canal with plans of boarding a canal boat for a short ride, including passage through one of the locks, but the National Park Service, who operates the canal, has suspended all boat tours due to COVID. The actual canal towpath, now severely overgrown in some areas, is still open for walking and bicycling. Next to the lock is the lockkeeper's house. The lockkeeper was on duty 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, making sure that any passing boats had help getting through the lock. On Saturday, Carol and I visited the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal's Paw Paw Tunnel. Here is the general layout of the Potomac River in the area, which, as I said earlier, the canal was following. Notice the 6 sharp turns in the river in this area. Engineers came up with a plan to detour from the river's path in this area and dig a canal tunnel through the hills rather than going around them. This tunnel helped eliminate 6 miles of canals, but it did not come easy. Labor strikes, money issues, and illness extended the construction of the 3,118-foot tunnel to nearly 14 years. Here is the front of the Paw Paw Tunnel today. You can enter the tunnel and walk to the other end in the area where the mules once pulled boats. This is looking toward the far end of the tunnel just after entering the tunnel. This is looking back toward the entrance shortly after entering the tunnel. 6 million bricks were used in making this tunnel. If you watched our March 3rd, 2021 video describing our travel plans for this year, you may remember that I intentionally left a 2-month gap in our schedule after Maryland. The main purpose of this gap, weather permitting, was to have enough time available to travel back to Nebraska for a short visit before heading south for the winter. I shared this idea of driving to Nebraska with Carol while we were in Berlin, Maryland, and she thought it was a great idea, so we have canceled our 7th day in Little Orleans and will be leaving on Thursday. Maryland is the 48th state that Carol and I have visited together. If you like this video but have not yet subscribed, please do so to be notified of future videos, and as always, feel free to share with your friends. Thanks for watching!